What's happening, Internet J Gamer Dude here, and I do talk about anime quite a bit, especially shows that I've watched and I try to share my thoughts on. Sometimes it's done in an okay way, sometimes in a not so great way, but you know, it is what it is. And I do want to ask you guys about digital content, but I feel like I've asked that question a bit too much, especially in the past with gaming, so this is really not going to be changing much. But ultimately, Funimation is finally closing its doors after being merged with Crunchyroll since a couple of years ago. I want to say like 2021. So, you know, it was a matter of time before Funimation would completely close down. So in my neck of the woods, I actually never had Funimation. Instead, we had something called Anime Lab. Anime Lab was then bought up by Funimation, so that everything that was on Anime Lab went into Funimation instead, and so we had to use Funimation in our region, which we never had up until that point. And now Funimation has merged into Crunchyroll being the main brand that will continue to live on, and Funimation will be shutting down. Now, this is from the perspective of someone who lives in the Oceania region, and easily, like, you know, I don't think a lot of people would have ever heard of Anime Lab otherwise, and they had some excellent shows. I did watch a lot, so I did have a couple of subscriptions, one being to Anime Lab initially, and then I also had a Crunchyroll throughout, though the Anime Lab one did drop off after a little while, only because they were bought up by Funimation, and then eventually Funimation announced that they were being bought up by Crunchyroll. So pretty much there was a lot of buying from my neck of the woods, and that's really unfortunate because that really sucks. Now, in addition to the fact that Funimation did actually allow you to buy things digitally and be able to, you know, download and watch. I don't know if they allowed you to download it, but they definitely allowed you to watch it as long as you bought, you know, a DVD or a Blu-ray that had a code in it and would give you a digital copy of that exact same movie or TV show, whatever it may have been that you bought. And you could redeem that on Funimation, especially if it's anime. So, because Crunchyroll doesn't allow this sort of service at all, because they don't have it in their back end to allow for something like this to work or function. Effectively, anyone who had access to these digital items that they had bought as part of a physical product, being the DVD or Blu-ray that it was also attached to, that will no longer be accessible by people. So ultimately, you buy a DVD, you get a code for the digital version of the show or movie or whatever it may be, so you'd have both a physical and a digital version, and you might think that losing the digital version doesn't really mean much. But the problem with it is that at the time, when they were actually advertising this sort of product, it said on the cover, you are paying for both the digital and physical versions. So Funimation is shutting down. An entire service is being removed because Crunchyroll doesn't know how to implement it on their own site, despite merging with Funimation now for some ungodly reason. In addition to that, Crunchyroll is now raising its prices to over double what it had originally cost, from actually $6.99 to, what was it, $13.99, or was it $12.99? Hold on, let me have a quick look at the numbers here on actually how much it cost. It was definitely over more than half. Subscriptions will rise to $100 a year. Yeah. I need to double check the pricing in my region, especially because I do not want to pay double what I was paying before. I'd rather just pay nothing and just keep watching everything on other sites that allow me to watch it without needing to pay, because the main issue with that is back when I did actually jump into Crunchyroll, I watched shows on certain sites, but those sites were being shut down very quickly, and so I thought, okay, I'll just pay for one subscription that was like, you know, $5 or $6 a month, and I've been paying that price for like the longest time. Now the price that is being offered is almost double, if not slightly over double. It was like it pretty much is practically doubling the price. So it certainly isn't worth the hassle or bother to actually continue paying for the service. So when my renewal date does come up, I'm actually going to be jumping ship, because I don't want to pay, you know, twice the price for a, yeah, like simulcasting is nice and all, but fan subs have always been there and will continue to be there, because there will always be a market for this type of stuff. So ultimately, that's what I'm probably going to be doing in the end, because there are actually quite a few shows that are not available on any streaming services, and some that are, but I don't have access to those streaming sites, that I'm already watching on the sites in question. So I would just be watching more shows on one side rather than the other. So I've actually been sailing the seven seas for a little while, like gotten back into it. So I don't know if a lot of other people are also going to be jumping back into that. But this is a really, really sucky, you know, situation to be in, especially as an anime fan, and especially if you've been subscribed to Crunchyroll, Crunchyroll for the longest time. And I'm sure there's quite a lot of people who actually feel that way. I don't know if the price increase is still worth the convenience that you get out of it, because I've managed, because at that point, like, you should already have ad blockers by this point. So using ad blockers in conjunction with those sites will actually benefit you quite greatly, unless those sites, you know, won't allow you to watch the video if you have ad block on. And I'm sure there are some that are out there, but the one that I use personally doesn't, you know, stop me from watching shows if I have ad block on, for example. Kind of like what YouTube tried to do with the ad block situation before, or rather how YouTube slowed down significantly for a lot of people who had ad block back a few weeks ago. So yeah, that's kind of what the situation is. Let me know what you guys think about this whole thing in the comments below, because this has got multiple layers, whether it be one site shutting down in order to allow the monopoly of another, or the monopolization of another, the lack that the monopolizing site is not able to bring in a service that the site that's shutting down has had for like the longest time, or the fact that the larger site is now asking for double the price on a monthly basis in order to extract more funds out of people. It's kind of like what PlayStation Plus did when they announced additional higher tiers and the price increase, because if the price increase can offset the number of people that are going to be moving away from the service and cancelling their accounts completely, then that might actually be worth it to them, because they only need to keep a percentage of individuals in order to keep the same amount of money. Unless they lose more people than they actually look to gain or to keep, that would be the only time in which I could see them looking to potentially backtrack, but we'll have to see how things go. Let me know what you guys think about all of this in the comments below, and also about stuff like the high, you know, sailing the high seas and all of that, along with the rest of us. But yeah, like the video if you liked it, subscribe to the channel, because I do want my videos to go out to more people, and I am aiming for 200 subs by the end of the year. And of course, when we get, like, hopefully the more people that actually come in and watch this video, the more of a conversation we'll have about this, because I feel like almost everyone, their mom, their grandma, and their dog kind of have an opinion regarding, you know, streaming services, the viability of just being able to watch anything from anywhere, especially if it's sites that aren't particularly savory, because there is a market for that, and the only reason why that market exists is because it's a massive service problem that is being presented to us. You cannot beat something like piracy, because at the end of the day, you know, you can't access every single show that has ever existed from the past 40 to 50 years on a legitimate streaming site, because otherwise that site would go under before you know it. But that's just me sort of extrapolating a little bit too much from the situation. Other than that, I do upload every day, so I'll see you guys tomorrow.